Hello, hello, hello. Good evening. I'm Pedro Barbosa, your host, and welcome to the Bomb Draft and Pray podcast. And I'm joined by Earl Goddard, our resident former racing driver. Hello, Earl.
Hello, mate. How are you?
I'm very good. I was even better if I didn't just about almost screw the intro. But yeah. Welcome all. First things, I think we should acknowledge what happened before almost the weekend started. Acknowledge the death of Mr. and I'm going to butcher his name, Dieter Masterschitz. I'm not going to say it again because it's a little bit hard to pronounce for me. But yeah, it's very sad news for all motorsports. It's one of those characters that he contributed a lot to the sport, for many sports, because his company Red Bull supports a lot of sports, not just motorsports, but everything. But in particular to motorsports and Formula One. He brought up many drivers that we probably wouldn't even have on the grid, like Vettel. Verstappen will probably be here, Sainz, and we have the crazy Scott Speed. We have coming into Europe. We have Liuzzi. We have many drivers, and even those Ricardo, and even those that didn't really get to Formula One, they probably have a career because of them, because of Red Bull, because although it's a very hard place to be and to grow up in, the Red Bull family, even when they don't promote you to Formula One, they kind of take care of you and put you into other categories and get cars, get teams for you to drive. DTM was one of the series that they sent many Red Bull proteges to just go there when they didn't have a place in the Formula One in the top of the Formula One ladder. They just got them a place there. We used to have Red Bull liveries in all brands. In BMW we had Felix Acosta, and we have two Portuguese drivers that are now very, very respected drivers. And Portugal, we are very small. We don't have money to support racing drivers. But we have two names that are very big in the sports car and in Formula E because of Red Bull. That's Felix Acosta and that's Philippe Albuquerque. And both of them say that they have basically their careers to thank to the Red Bull family. It's very sad news. We've been having a few reports that he was not in his full capacities. He was 78 years old, probably a little bit too young to go away. It seemed to me that he had a very youthful way about him. He was a 78-year-old headbanging to I think it was the Red. I don't know if you know this, but the Red Bull garage in honor of him, they all didn't dress with jeans and not the usual uniform that they have because of him, because he used to just wear jeans all the time. And they rocked the Rolling Stones very loud in the garage in honor of him because he was a massive Rolling Stones fan. So yeah, we have to acknowledge his contribution to the sport, and I think everyone will miss his input on the sport. Let's hope.
Yeah, we need to think there's not many brands that you can find on multiple teams, all in the same championships throughout. Probably the only car you'll never find it involved with is the old Mercedes, but the brand Red Bull is in everything. Cliff diving, sky racing, just you name it, and the more extreme, they were there. They were the ones pioneering it, weren't they?
Sim racing.
Or backing it. Sim racing.
Very big in sim racing. Even in esports in general. Even in, I don't know, League of Legends and all of that stuff that I don't quite understand.
He definitely... Oh, excuse me. I say him, but his marketing team changed the way people market a brand, full stop. The way Red Bull went about their business.
Yeah, and I'm not going to say that it left a big mark on the sport, because it's still ongoing, and as far as we know, it will continue. But yeah, I do... at least the reports that we have is that Red Bull's commitment to the Red Bull team is still as strong as it is because of him, because he was very passionate about Formula One. So yeah, I think...
Yeah, I don't see them getting rid of it, to be fair.
Yeah.
it's Red Bull Formula One team is too much of a monster in its own right that they would be silly to get rid of it.
Yeah, even without him on board. Yeah, but
it's good business.
Very good business. Let's be honest. So yeah, he has been inside Formula One even way before Red Bull Racing was even a thing. They sponsored everything. We have drivers with Red Bull on their helmets, not even in drivers that are not in the Red Bull car. You see it as well in MotoGP. You have the Red Bull logo in multiple bikes from different manufacturers. Yeah, it's amazing the empire that he created with just a drink that he doesn't manufacture, which is a little bit strange to think about, but yeah, their
all about marketing.
That's just awesome. And yeah, so yeah, I think I'm echoing all of the podcast team that yeah, we fans have many to thank for his input into the sport, because it's definitely made the sport more interesting and exciting, and our favorite drivers that probably wouldn't have money to even start a car racing career, and they were able just because of the input that his brand has into the sport. So yeah, our condolences to everyone from the Red Bull family. You could see actually in the end of the race that Christian was, yeah, it was hard to keep the tears in. You could see it in his face. Good old Helmut Marko is probably too much of a tough cookie for that. But
yeah, it's stone cold.
Yeah, but yeah, thank you very much.
I'm sure he was feeling it on the inside, yeah.
Oh, definitely. I don't think it was a coincidence that it was him going to the podium.
Well, no, I think, yeah, they decided because, let's be honest, he was the one that took Dietrich's money and turned it into Red Bull. You know, he was the driving force behind bringing Red Bull there and creating the racing side of the empire. And I think Dietrich basically was just letting him do what he wanted, and he paid unless he liked something and said, I want that. But yeah, so Dr. Marco's got an awful lot to be accounted for when it comes to, like you say, the number of drivers that have come through, the teams and everything. And you sort of get the feeling that if Helmut turned around to Decrypt and said, no, that's not a good idea, it didn't happen.
Yeah, I think, for the Red Bull team, we probably have Helmut Marko the most to thank for. I do think that it was him who got Dieter to buy a race team. He was passionate about Formula One, but I don't think he was that passionate to put so much money without a little bit of a push from someone. So it's one of those situations where two very passionate guys for Formula One, one with money and the other with and Helmut was actually a racing driver, and he raced Formula One, didn't he?
Yep.
Was there where he had his accident? Was it in Formula One?
I'm not sure if it was in Formula One, but yes, that's how he lost his eye.
Did he really lose his eye? Or it's just damage? Oh.
No, stone went through the visor. In the good old days of not bulletproof visors. But that's how he lost his eye.
Yeah. Yeah, he's definitely a very tough cookie.
Oh, yes. Him and Lauda are the same side of the bench, aren't they?
Yeah, those Austrians are crazy. Yeah, very tough cookies. So, let's on a little bit of a down, of a downer. Yeah. We'll start the review. Okay, so from now on, I already talked with my colleagues that I'm not going to do such an extended pre-race review, because to be honest, I'm a little bit tired of saying that Ricardo and Ocon were nowhere compared to Norris and Fernando, which happened again. So spoiler alert. So I'll just say probably the top 3 or top something, and we'll continue from there. So, and in the qualifying, both of the Ferraris were on top. Leclerc had a engine penalty. Then it was standard. 2 Ferraris, 2 Red Bulls, and 2 Mercedes. So, both Charles and Sergio had penalties. Charles a little bit more because he changed his entire power unit, or just internal combustion engine and something else. So we went to the back of the grid, and Sergio just got a few places back, 5 places. So we started with Carlos Sainz, Max Verstappen, Lewis, George, then Lance, Lando, Valtteri, Albon, Sergio Perez, and Sebastian Vettel. That's our top 10. So you might notice that we have 2 Aston Martins on the top 10 of the grid. So that was actually very impressive. They've clearly found something. I've heard that the car from Barcelona onwards was like crazy. The upgrade package that they brought was almost a completely different car. So they started a little bit late, let's say it like that.
Yeah, I think all the talk was that they just hit the sweet spot with the setup from FP1. They were just on the money, and sometimes you get that, don't you? It works, and okay, so they were quick from the go. They weren't chasing a setup. And I think you've got that extra. Sebastian's driving a bit possessed at the moment in his last few races.
Yeah. You can talk a little bit more than me about this, but what I get is that when you start the weekend with actually a good setup, like a good base setup, you don't have to find a base setup that works. You just worry in making the car a little bit better in one or another way, and you don't have to find a completely new thing. So when you get to the track and let's say your simulation wasn't very accurate, because let's face it, they start with the setup that they get from the simulator and from what they've learned about the car in that year. So when you go out on track and the car is like fine, it's good and it handles good, you just go and find a little bit more.
Yeah, it just means you're fine tuning. You're just tweaking little bits here and there, whether it be driver preference, get the tyres more optimal. And tyres obviously this weekend was a bigger one with them losing FP2 to the tyre test for next year's tyres, so obviously you lost a whole session of setup. If you haven't got a good base and you're trying stuff, every lap is different, and you're trying, we've got to try something, and you end up chasing your tail. Whereas if you get out and you drive and you go, oh, car's good. Oh, it's got a little bit of oversteer in turn 5. Engineers love that because it's just little tweaks. Whereas if you're going, it's doing this in turn 1, it's doing that in turn 3, it's doing that, but turn 7's it, and it's like you almost have to go, well, start again. But because you've got all these computer simulations now of what it should be doing, and sometimes they trust the computer more than the driver.
Yeah.
But it just goes to show, because Vettel was quick Stroll was quick as well, and he's not normally.
Yeah. Yeah, the thing is, if you have a bad setup from the beginning, you probably will have to do bigger adjustments that you really want, and then you don't get as much relatability from what you just driven to what you're driving now. So it might be a little bit confusing for the driver as well. So you don't really know what just happened, let's say.
Yeah, and it just shows how powerful it is having hitting the ground running. The fact that both of them were up there, it wasn't just Vettel with experience was driving better than Stroll or vice versa. The car was just quick. Unlike, you look at Williams, Albon was quick, Latifi not so. I don't think even setup-wise, because let's be honest, the circuit is known as a driver's circuit, and say no more.
Yeah, I actually, because the F1 game was free this weekend on Steam, I actually went and drove the circuit with the F1 car. I know it will not be 100% because I'm not used to more of a gamey
Simcade.
I don't think I would even call it Simcade, to be honest. It feels kind of good, let's be honest. I was a little bit... It was enjoyable, let's say. It was enjoyable, and you get the feeling of F1. But the main thing was that I had to try the track. I don't have the track in iRacing, which is the only laser... Oh no, I think Assetto Corsa Competizione has the laser. It's laser scan. Yeah. But yeah, I never tried a laser scan of that track, but yeah, it's not an easy track to get right, like lap after lap, because, for example, only T1, and we're going to talk T1 when we talk about the race start, but T1 is so wide and it has so many different lines that you can't actually take into there, that it's crazy. Just think about what they are doing in the race start, and while trying to overtake someone. And actually Norris did a masterclass on that. So yeah, you can. It's very wide and it's uphill. It's crazy. It's 11% of a climb. 11% is crazy. There's ovals with that with that amount of of a climb. So there's actually a very good. They do this every time because it's amazing, the climb to turn one. But if you see from the start of the straight on, you actually it feels like it's a roller coaster going up. So it's just amazing, and then it's so wide, and yeah, it's amazing, let's say. So
definitely, it always has excitement every year, doesn't it? Every race there's, be it sports cars, be it IndyCar, anything, they always have. It's entertaining. It always provides good racing, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it was the stage of one of the most impressive things that I've ever seen on motorsports. I don't know if you saw this. It was quite a few years ago. We had Marc Marquez crash running into the pit lane. I mean, his engine blew up in the main straight, and he didn't do a good lap, and he jumped the pit wall and ran into the spare bike, jumped onto it, and did an installation lap and one fast lap and got pole position. It was just one of the most impressive things that I've ever seen in motorsports.
Yeah, that boy is he's just another level. Hey, it's just...
Yeah, it's... Verstappen is the Max Marquez, the Marc Marquez of Formula 1, let's say.
I don't think
even more?
You can't compare anyone in any sport to what he's doing. I mean, it's just so fast and just so fearless. The amount of times he's been broken and he just gets back on it, and lap record, boom, done. There's a brilliant bit of footage where I think it's from it's either Estoril or Jerez, the last race of the year. He might have been on a Moto2 bike, but he made it look like a video game. He started from the back of the grid in the wet, and I think he was just fifth by the end of the second lap. He was just on a different level. He's phenomenal.
Was Valencia. I'm sure, because it has been the last race of the MotoGP for like 20 years. So
that's the one then. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where they are going in 1 month for the season finale.
Yeah, it was just...
We should do a MotoGP podcast because Formula 1 has nothing to offer apart from the racing right now, and actually MotoGP has a title fight in the last race. Kind of. Not really. But yeah, kind of.
Not really, but yeah. There'll be people racing. Yeah, we do MotoGP.
We can do a little bit of MotoGP, actually. There's no bump draft, or it could be with the wings that they have now.
They definitely draft. They might not bump.
Oh, they bump. And Mark bumps a lot. That's why he has been out of the question for a long time. It's almost 3 years now. Fuck. Yeah, but those guys are crazy. The only guys that are crazier than those guys are the ones that you have there in your country. Street racing and the Isle of Man stuff. Those are not crazy. Those are just insane. They are just insane.
Yeah, it takes Fearless to a whole new level. Watching like the Northern Ireland road races, that just...
Yeah. And you guys have kart races there as well, like that.
Isle of Man, yeah, they do.
With
I think Isle of Man they have one.
Hail bells and all that
50 shifter carts.
Oh man, I saw a race the other day. It was one of the... it wasn't what track was it? It's a very sinuous, short, tight track there in the UK, and they were doing it with karts, with shifter karts. It was just the only guys that are crazier than that. Those super karts that they race in Germany. Those ones with you have that as well.
Yeah, we used to have the 250 super karts in the 90s. friend of mine used to race them, and they were there as a support race to one of our races at Donington, and they were doing the same speed as the Formula One cars around the corner.
Oh man!
And he was like, "Right, you need to come have a go in it." And I was like, "Yeah, I'd love to have a go in it." And I was watching their race, and on the first lap there was an incident. 3 cars came together, and all 3 of them, all they do is they just break their knees because the way they're lying in the cart, no seatbelts, so you get flicked out, and it just basically snaps your legs. So literally, and I was like, "Yep, never driving one. Nope, no, thank you." I mean, they're crazy. They're great, but I like my knees.
Yeah. Almost like Daniel just our bid for Daniel to go to IndyCar just went nowhere because he just said "over scare me," so no thank you. So yeah, it's almost on the same level.
He'll do what Grosjean did, and he'll go there and say, "I'll race the street courses, but not the speed race." And then he'll do one, and he'll go, "Turning left is awesome," and he'll be hooked.
Let's go to the F1 race. Let's not start you on turning left. So yeah. Yeah, this is going to be a good listen for the podcast. Okay. Okay, let's continue. Let's not diverge to ovals, or we'll never get out of it. So we started the race, and the only cars not racing the mediums were the 2 Haas and the 2 Alpines. So yeah, everyone was on mediums, and I must admit that I didn't really watch not even a little bit of free practice this weekend. I just watched qualifying and the race, and I had no idea that the soft was so useless for the race. Had no idea, absolutely no idea. So, but Ocon actually started from the pits. I don't know what he did. It changed some stuff because he qualified in the back of the grid anyway, so he probably just changed some power unit stuff. And the only reason that Valtteri didn't do that, because he had problems in his MG UK, I think it was because he put a unit that was used, so he had used it before. Yeah. So they can like change them and do whatever
without a penalty.
Yeah, without a penalty. Like, let's say you can have 3 and they are numbered. Let's say they are numbered in the beginning of the year, like a serial number, and then they have those 3 serial numbers to use, and then just if you bring another one, like a 4th one, where you could actually do every race with a different MGUK, with a different ICE. You could do a race with a different thing in the car and just change them for every race, as long as you just use the ones that are stipulated as being the ones that you can use in the entire year. So we started the race, and it was a great start for Max, and he was on the inside because the grippier part on the circuit is on the outside, and the pole position man starts on the side of the track that is cleaner. But Carlos just had a bad start, and Max was P1 by like 200, 300 meters, not even that. And then Carlos tried and cut him back on the inside, so we went a little bit wider, and then he cut to the inside, and by then we had 2 cars locking up. One of them was Albon, that he locked very, and the other one was George Russell. He locked up, and he basically turned Carlos around, and because they were on a different angle, so Carlos just went and he cut back, and then George couldn't. It was a very steep angle, and he couldn't really, and he got a little bit of overspeed. He had too much speed because of the lockup. So, what's your view on that incident?
It's a difficult one. Carlos was doing the only thing he could do to actually attack Max, which was to switch back and try to get underneath him and better drive out of the corner. But by doing that, you leave a massive gap open down the inside, which other drivers are going to go for. They don't know what you're doing, and George is making a habit of hitting people at the minute, and that I don't think he could have done much more other than stopping the car, which he's obviously never going to do. I think it's a little bit 50-50 blame there just to wimp out of it, because George couldn't have done much more. He was trying driving, and Carlos basically turned down in front of everyone using the wider line and a switchback. So he can't assume that people are going to just get out the way because he's turning. Much as the same as George can't be expected. Yeah, there's got to be a bit of blame laid at both of them, I think.
So you don't agree with the penalty that George will eventually get, the 5 seconds?
No, but I'm not a steward. So I'm not an F1 steward.
No, but we're here to talk shit about stewards. Sorry for my French.
Yeah, they obviously felt that is it because of his previous? Are they taking into account that this isn't the first time he's hit someone at the start of a race? He's had a few more incidents with it, hasn't he, over the last couple of years?
Yeah, I agree with you that it's a difficult one, and one of the things that contributed a lot to that incident was exactly the width of the track there. Because you can fit like 6 or 8 or 7 cars side by side there, and that makes
all
it
the lines work.
Yeah, kind of work. Yeah. So yeah, I do agree that it was Carlos who put himself in the situation, but what I can't agree is that he could actually do something to prevent it. He is worried about the cars that are in front, not the cars that are behind him, and Russell was nowhere beside him.
But if he was, I mean, he didn't have to try the switchback. He could have just kept it in line, followed Max through, and continued racing him. And like you say, he put himself in the position to be hit by someone coming in if they locked up. Same as going to the outside on the first corner. You're putting yourself in the position where if someone spins, they're more than likely going to take you out.
Yeah.
So that's the risk he took. Yeah.
Yeah, but on a purely blame thing, like the person who does the mistake and lock up probably would get the blame. Yeah, I do think that the consequences of the mistake were taken into account, because we had the penalty came out when we already knew that Carlos was not going to continue. He did just that lap and came in, and he had damage to some internal thing. So yeah, I don't think it would have been a huge controversy if there wasn't any penalty, but at the same time I can kind of see it.
Yeah, they've taken into account that he's effectively ended Carlos's race. Probably hence the 5 second. Carlos had still continued on and fought his way through. I don't know whether I don't know. It's a tough one.
Yeah, it's a very tough one. And yes, we're here to talk, like I said in French, talk shit about stewards, but we acknowledge the difficulty of their job. It's not easy. Definitely not easy. Definitely not an easy job. So yeah, that was basically, and some drivers had a very good start. Both of the Astons had a great start. Stroll was P3 in the first lap, and Vettel P5. Yeah. So they have very good starts and kind of good pace when it all calmed down a little bit. They kind of have good pace.
Yeah, they were running well. I bet they were quite happy with that.
Yeah, very, very happy. And I was happy to see them there because it's always good to see another team kind of there and racing with them. So they were looking for the best of the rest prize that doesn't really exist, but yeah, that's it. And Perez was P6 behind Vettel, and Leclerc had already got to P9 when it all came down to lap 2. And now it was basically the talk of the race, basically, because they had huge. The wind was crazy, especially on T1. It was the place where they showed it the most. It was 25 kph of wind, and the wind was changing directions. It was one way one lap and one way the other. How do you, because in the sim I don't really have a feel for that. You don't really actually feel it all that much, but in real life, how does it feel to have a higher downforce car and that relies on air to get grip and then have changing winds?
Essentially what you end up happening is, say you're heading into T1, you've got your brake point. If you've got a headwind, you can brake later because you're getting even more downforce. So you've got your brake marker, you know where you're braking, and you get there the next lap and the wind's changed and it's behind you. All of a sudden you've got a lot less downforce than you had the lap before, and your normal brake marker it won't work. You'll overshoot the corner. You're going to outbrake yourself. And then you get into, and that's just purely just thinking a straight headwind or tailwind. And then you get to crosswinds, and you can completely lose your aero. The way what you think you have one lap will be different the next lap, and that when you've got the likes of Max go in, it's just, I'm struggling to drive with it. It's just, you don't get that consistency. Like you say, in the sim, you've got the consistency where you can brake there every lap and it's not going to change, or you can take the corner like this every lap. But when the aero cars, and especially, like you say, high downforce reliant cars, it does make a huge difference. And just not knowing.
I was actually surprised because these cars don't use downforce in the same way that the previous cars would, so not as much reliant on the front and rear wings and on all of those vanes, but they are more reliable on the underfloor and the all of those Venturi tunnels and all that. So I was quite surprised to find that they were so twitchy on so sensitive to the wind. But yeah, they were having
It's the difference of if the floor's producing, say, 3,000 pounds of downforce, the wings are still producing maybe 500, say front and rear wing producing an additional 500 pounds of downforce. All of a sudden you don't have that. And then you do have it, or you only have some, and that's where, so they may not be affecting them as much, but you're not getting 95% downforce, you're getting 70% downforce, then you're getting 90%, then you're getting 60%. It's that, so they still got it, just not the amount they need to keep that speed up.
Yeah. And actually, Max was complaining all race about balance and engine modes and all that stuff. So maybe he was asking his drivability was probably more due to.
I think he there was something with his, like he kept complaining, drivability, whether it was an engine map or strats as they call it for the cars, and either that or they had an issue with the car and they were fixing it live and then just sending him different modes to like try this one to try and fix whatever the issue was. But obviously they're not going to tell us that. So
of course they're not going to tell that. Perez actually had front wing damage as well. He had one of the winglets on the side flapping about. And on lap 6, while it broke off, it actually broke off while he was passing someone. While he was passing, I don't think it was Vettel or... I think it was Vettel or Norris. And actually broke off the car. And that this will be a theme for later. So
yes,
keep this in mind. And then on lap 13, the stop started. Hamilton came in for hards. Then the next lap, Verstappen, Russell, and Perez. Then the next lap after that, Perez and Norris. I have Perez 2 times, so I made a mistake here. And then Stroll came in for the mediums. So he was committed to a 2-stopper. And in lap 17, this is 3 laps after, almost 4 laps after Hamilton came in. Leclerc was telling Ferrari to consider plan E. So
yeah,
the drivers really know what those plans are.
yeah, I'm sure they'll. How much differential there is between A, B, C, D, and E, but
yeah.
Maybe they don't do A, B. They just do C, D, E. So it's only plan B really, but
yeah. So it was on for plan E, or whatever that is, and it paid off. Because on the next lap, Bottas spun into the gravel on the like just before the last corner. It was the second to last corner. Actually, it was what we were talking about, the wind. I think he got out of shape because of the wind, but he doesn't really blame the wind. He says it was his mistake. The wind did not help, but yeah,
he lost the back end.
Yeah, I lost the back end a little bit, and then we had safety car because it was stuck in the gravel in a really tricky spot. And so then Leclerc came in and gained massively because he came out in 4th place. So he was previously in P9, and when everyone started to pit, and then he got into P4. He got into the hards, and Vettel came in as well into the mediums, and Alonso came in for the mediums as well, and basically both Haas and both Alpines came in for the mediums. And we had a restart. So the restart was kind of standard. We didn't have any major passes, nothing like that. But then when we came into the back straight, which is huge back straight, Alonso and Stroll were battling, and they touched. Stroll's car just disintegrated. And Alonso flew 50 or 100 meters in the air with just doing a Marc Marquez style wheelie, crashed into the barrier, and continued. So, yeah, not about that, but about the incident itself. What's your view on it?
Stroll moved when he shouldn't have. Basically, as simple as that. Alonso Alonso had obviously a run on him, and did as Alonso does. He kept the slipstream as long as possible to get maximum effect, and pulled out. Stroll saw him pull out, and you see it on the onboard camera, and he jinks left just as a natural reaction to try and defend. He jinks, but at those sort of speeds and at that close range, Alonso obviously hit his rear tyre and then got catapulted into the air. But I think it's 100% Stroll's fault. The fact that he's still claiming it's not his fault, I don't know how.
Yeah,
he thinks it's
the only caveat that I put there is I agree. I'm not saying it's not Stroll's fault. I have two caveats to put there. Yes, the move that Alonso did was very late as well, so he was right at the last minute. So not at the same level as Sainz, but it was one of those, if you do that, and you have to have 100% confidence that the guy in front is not going to try and stop you from going there. And the other thing is, I think, because you can actually see that just before they touch, Alonso actually tries and get the car to the right. If you see the replay. So Alonso might have thought about doing a dummy as well, because it was so fast. Basically, it's the fastest part of the circuit. I do think that contributed a little bit to it, but I not only accept, but I agree that if you're going to blame someone, you have to blame. You have to blame.
You can't
Stroll.
do that.
Yeah.
You can't do that in this. It's just not safe. It's as simple as that. I mean, that could have been a horrific accident. If he had gone over, or even if he had gone a meter higher and not hit the barrier, the way he did, or hit it at a 45-degree angle, it don't bear thinking about.
Yeah. It was very, very, very dangerous, and I'll just give a little bit of a 5% to Stroll back, just because I actually think Alonso could have tried, and because it didn't actually continue to go left, and because he had a lot of track to the left. But we can't really know, because he didn't continue to the left, we didn't see the actual rate at which Stroll was going to push him off the track. So yeah, I totally accept that. Stroll's fault.
Yes.
Just 95%. For me, not Earl's point. Okay. So yeah, we had another safety car, and my rant was not here. I told you before we started that I had a rant, and it was not because of Stroll and Alonso. It was actually because of how drivers acted when the crash happened. And I'm sorry to say, but it's going to be two French drivers that I'm going to rant about. Because there were two French drivers, and there are two French drivers on the grid, Mr. Pierre Gasly and Mr. Ocon, that I feel didn't crash, but as much as we talked about safety from Japan to here, and all that was said and done in the public eye, I don't think it was, because you can actually see Gasly, he slows down a little bit, but he tries to Lightning McQueen out of it, and just goes and accelerates and weaves all over the track to pass it. I don't think that's the right way, because if Stroll's car didn't like veer a little bit to the right at the last time, he would crash into Gasly, and we don't know if he then would crash into Alonso. So yeah, for a driver, there was so much concern about a tractor on track while doing basically racing speed in the rain, while there was a safety car. Let's not talk about even there was a red flag. And then I know that it's almost the instinct to try and gain there, but yeah, it was. I twitched a little bit about Gasly, and then I watched the onboard from Norris car, and he actually slowed down a lot. And he was not in the thick of it like Gasly was. He was very respectful about there being two cars crashing. And there comes Ocon full racing speed on the grass, passing Norris. So, yeah, what I don't feel good is we had a race director following the rules last weekend, and he was crucified and fired from the gig. Not that he really wanted the gig. We know, and someone that took part in the Japan race review, he came here to give him his view on the incident. And we know from him that Eduardo Freitas didn't really want the F1 gig because it's too much of a media circle for him. And is like more of a understated person and follows everything by the book and all that stuff. I actually don't know. Maybe he was directing some races for you, because he started doing international stuff right about when you were actually doing some American Le Mans and something. No, the Saline race. What was that in Spa? Was it the FIA GT thing?
Celine. The Celine was in Miami.
Oh, it was Miami.
That was the Lola. So
Lola,
the precursor.
Okay.
I don't think he was there. He might have been for some of the European Le Mans or American Le Mans, but
yeah.
Those days there wasn't as much communication as there is with the drivers now. It was more with the teams, and then the team related to the drivers.
Yeah. So what got me was that from everyone that talks about him is a very respected, or one of the most respected race directors in the world, and the way that it came out to the public since Japan, and from him being fired from the job, I think it came out as it was his fault and he did something horrible. And
F1 wanting a scapegoat.
Yeah, and they've been doing that for a bit of time, and we got what I said we should have is one race director, and I think the other race director that I don't know the name of, I'm going to ask for forgiveness here, because I know Eduardo's name because I've talked about him a lot even before he came into F1. So yeah, it was I wasn't saying that the job should be his. I was just saying that it should be just one guy, and we got that. But the way that it was done, I don't think it was fair for Eduardo. And from what I know of his character, he's not going to talk about it. He's just going to go to WEC and he's going to do his job and not talk about it. But everyone thinks that it was a horrible thing that it did by following procedures, and the driver that started it all in Japan then does a Lightning McQueen around crashing cars. And
yeah, I think I'm gonna sort of defend Gasly here, because you say compared to Ocon, he was a lot closer to the accident when it happened, and in that situation, you can't just, you've got cars behind you, so it's not like you can just slam on the brakes and stop. So you're trying to things that you pick your way through, you're trying to see where the cars are going and try and predict it. And
and I'm not saying he didn't do that, but I don't feel that he. And this is me talking in my office chair. Never have driven an F1 car.
Having watched it when I saw his onboard, I don't think he could have gone anywhere. He had to go down the middle of the track.
And I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. I don't think it's compatible with his initial. The initial part of it, it was fine. He backed off a little bit, but then once he saw he had.
Safe passage.
He was just like. I don't think he was like he didn't think about what would have happened if Stroll's cars continued to go left. I don't think he accounted for that. He just thought, let's try and get something out of this because I am going to lose massively if I just stay here. That was my kind of
he picked it. He picked his way through,
and I'm not saying I would do anything different. And I said it's a basic racing driver's. Like way of thinking. You always want to gain. Yeah, it's still a race, but I don't know. It seemed parts of it seemed a little bit reckless, or too reckless for someone who was screaming on the radio 2 weeks ago. Yeah,
the difference is this was in the middle of a race. It wasn't under a safety car.
Yeah, so I agree that last time it was way worse. Yeah, I do agree. But yeah, it's I don't know. It's just it feels odd, and he has been way. I don't know what's happening between him and AlphaTauri. Maybe the breakup is not going all of that well because he's complaining a lot about the team. He's complaining about everything. Every time I seem to hear him, is shouting and all that stuff. And yeah, I had to bring up because it was a safety thing, and I have to bring up because it was just one of those, that I thought I should mention something. And it was somewhat relatable to... But yeah, Ocon was way worse. I give you that 100%. Ocon didn't even flinch. He was just, let's go, and I'm going to go on the grass, and there was no way he knew where Stroll was when he did that.
No, he closed his eyes and went, didn't he?
Yeah, that was. I actually think Ocon should have got a penalty for that because it's reckless. Let's be honest, it's reckless.
Oh, yeah, 100%
reckless. So yeah, that's my rant. Rant over. Done. Let's continue. We are probably going to get... we didn't get hate mail for the Japan thing, so we're probably not get hate mail from this one as well. I hope.
We won't get hate mail. We're good.
We're good. We're nice guys. We just want to...
Everyone loves us.
Everyone loves us. We're just passionate. So, yeah. And actually what I had here was... written here is late move from Stroll, so yeah. 100% say that there was a crash. Alonso went into the barrier and kept on going. At this time I thought, he has his wing damage, but no way that the suspension doesn't have damage.
Something wrong, yeah.
Something wrong. The diffuser is going to be broken because he was up in the air doing a wheelie and he came down, and there will be something wrong with the car and he's going to go to the pits and then he will retire. Turned out that no, he came out again and he didn't go in again, and he continued.
I was quite shocked by that.
There's one thing. Carbon fiber normally, unless it's the chassis, carbon fiber, it's like styrofoam in the middle just for weight. Most of cars have that in the wings and stuff. Like in the middle, it's not completely hollow, but to save weight, if you need a little bit of width to do something, they probably... I saw Roman Grosjean showed a bit of a wing that he got from his old... when he was racing F3. And he got styrofoam in the middle of it, just because of lightness, Just not.
Yeah, that won't be F1.
No, don't you think that
No.
they are doing that for lightness, save weight?
No.
In any part of the car?
No, because an F1 wing costs the same as an F3 car, so there's a big difference there in materials and the weave and everything. So no, they won't be a solid wing, but they will be hollow inside. Yeah,
that's even worse. Because I mean, there must be a case to say that suspension is too heavy. If it doesn't break with that much of a bang, I think there must be a case here to say that they could shave.
The thing with carbon fiber, and especially the suspension, it's designed in a way that in certain angles and such like it will ping like a piece of plastic. In other ways, it's strong. He's just been very lucky that whether it's a combination of landing on the grass, tires, everything, that's created a form of suspension for the suspension. But I was surprised that he didn't have any damage.
Yeah, because I kind of get the way that weaves work, not because I've worked with carbon fiber, but because I work with wood. You can see from my background if you're watching on YouTube. If you're not, you can go there. And I know of how to do plywood stuff and all that stuff. I'm not just saying about sheets of plywood, but for example, those instruments, all of those instruments that I have behind me, a drum, a guitar, or an acoustic guitar, it has layers of wood with the grain going a certain way, and you glue them together in a pattern that gives it strength in some way. So you need for different parts of the guitar, you're going to give it strength in some way. So I kind of get that, but what I don't get is because it was a side impact, so I get the up and down.
It was a flat impact. He's not. If his wheel had been slightly to the left, example, or the right, so that he caught it at an angle, I'm trying to find the thing, so he got an angle, he would have just pinged the wheel off and it was gone. I know, but my camera's up there, so
again, for those of you that are not looking, normally every episode I'm doing drawings with my hands and seeing how should I do it, and Earl just tried it for the first time.
Yeah, we're not going to do that, but yeah, because it was a side impact, so it was a flat impact.
And probably the two wheels at the same time, exactly at the same time.
Everything, yeah. So it was just luck then, and it bounced off for let's say, slight degree either other way, and it would have gone ping.
Yeah. So yeah, it was one of the. I was massively surprised. So he continued. He pitted for Hearts, and at this time, Hearts would have to last to the end, so that he could even try and not be last in the end of the race. So yeah, we restart the race and we continue, and Leclerc does a great overtake on Perez. He actually tried one lap on the back straight, on the end of the back straight. I actually think Checo was a little bit cheeky, and he had while trying to defend, he had a little bit of a lockup and forced Leclerc a little bit off to the outside of the track.
Yeah, he ran him wide, but Charles was also clever to know that.
Yeah, he was.
There's no point trying to turn in. That's just, you knew he was going to do it, and just let him go and go it again. Yeah.
So the next lap, he just went then on the inside and braked late. It was crazy late. I think it was one of the best late braking from Charles this year. It was very good overtake.
You sent it.
Yeah, properly sent it. So yeah, then we had a little bit of a slow race, slowish
periods.
And then Hamilton pitted for hards again. So we had a second round of pit stops because the hards were not going to last that much. I was actually surprised by the hards. It seemed they seemed to have too much pace and not enough durability for. I didn't think it was a step into the durability
hard
side.
enough.
Yeah. I think
they were more like a set of medians.
Yeah. So I do think that the tires were not properly. I mean, normally the hard is useless, so in that part is good. But I do think that maybe they should have gotten a little bit harder on the hards, so a bigger gap between mediums and hards. Yeah. So Hamilton pitted for hards, Verstappen pitted for mediums, and had a horrible pit stop. I mean, it was horrible. They couldn't get the wheel gun. It was actually the wheel gun because the guy, he was trying to get the wheel off. It was going to get off. He smacked it. He was able to get it off, but then it was not able to get the other one on and had to go pick up another wheel gun. And then he was able to get it on. It's one of those things. Mechanical components fail, and it doesn't matter how much. I mean, the guns are all stripped and repaired and rebuilt for every race, but something goes wrong. Yeah.
Just it happens, but that's why they've got the spare one there. And yeah, it's unfortunate, but it also
gave us
made for good racing.
Yeah,
because I mean, my first one was like, now we got a race. Let's see what Max has got. Yeah,
because at that point it was a little bit stale. He was not going. I do think that he had more pace in him than he was showing. But he had his troubles, like we talk about with the balance of the car and the drivability of the car. But I do think he had pace on hand if he really needed to get away from Lewis. Didn't seem that he. But he was actually passed not only by Hamilton but by Mr. Leclerc. So it was one of those. I was when I saw that we had the safety car, Leclerc was fourth, and I actually thought, now maybe my bet will be on.
I thought you might do that.
Yeah, because Mr. Earl let me bet on Leclerc while we forgot to tell you in our preview of the race that we already had some inclinations that Leclerc would be penalized in the grid. So yeah, he let me do that and didn't give you enough information. So I want a hate mail for Mr. Earl, and I'm going to pass it on and read him out loud every single email that we get. So
oh, wait.
So yeah, we had a race now because Max wants to win. I know he's got the championship in the bag already, and there was, with signs out, there was no way Ferrari is going to be able to get enough points to keep the championship going, because Ferrari had to get 18 more points than Red Bull for the race to continue to the next race, to Mexico City. So yeah, but Max is a racer. He always wants to win.
Yeah, and he was trying to. He wanted to equal Vettel and Schumacher's record of 13. So 13. Yeah, there's always something to win for.
Yeah, and they went out, and actually Max followed Leclerc for a couple of laps, and then they had actually a fight for almost laps, I think, trying to pass him. I think he was trying not to destroy his medium tires in the beginning of the stint as well, because there's always that very fine line between fighting another guy and destroying the tires.
Yeah.
But he was actually able to pass Leclerc in lap 39. And while that was going, we actually had for the first time, an Aston Martin in the lead. Mr. Vettel didn't pit for a long time. He waited because he was out of phase with the other guys because he pitted so late. He actually pitted in the same lap as Leclerc, but Leclerc chose to come in when Max did. Vettel just continued going. He was having a very nice race. Vettel was.
Yeah, he's been driving well all weekend, enjoying himself.
Yeah, and he actually led for 2 laps, and pitted, and yeah, it was even worse than Verstappen. I'm not going to lie. It was a horrible pit stop. The front jack man didn't put the jack in the correct angle, and when he tried to get the jack up, the car just tipped to the left, and the car bottomed out, and yeah, it was horrible.
Yeah, it was well, like you say, horrible. Jackman, well, it was obviously his mistake not getting in the right position, and then had to bring the second jack in, and yeah, it was just hard because there was a solid podium in the cards there for Vettel with the way he was driving and that, and on his swan song season, it would have been lovely.
Yeah, he's been driving very well, fights with everyone until the end of the race, and it was going very well for him. He was driving amazing.
And to be fair, Aston could use the points.
Yeah, and Aston could use the points with both cars. It would be even better. Yeah. But yeah, Stroll was already out. So then we had kind of a race to get Lewis. Max was trying to get Lewis because it was 5 seconds from Lewis, and he was catching. It was one of those. He gained time 2 laps, and then he did a recharge lap and do the same time as Lewis, and then win another second, and then not win anything or losing 1/10. And it was basically this almost until the end of the race. But while this is happening, my boy, Mr. Lando, was keeping us entertained, just not looking at numbers. Because he pitted for the hards, and he was in P11, and in 3 laps he passed 3 cars into T1. And so that's what we are talking about, the different lines into T1, because he actually passed the first 2 overtakes were on the inside, and the last one was on the outside.
Yeah, brave one that was.
Man, that was like really trusting that the guy inside was not going to just turn on him. And he actually then passed Alonso as well, because Alonso was in the points. Yeah, Alonso is the broken car, understated, waiting for everyone to pit, and he was just keeping his tires alive. And he was P7, if I'm not mistaken.
He was, yeah.
When Norris passed him. So yeah, it was one of those Alonso things. When he's on, he's on many times, and when he's on, he's really on.
Yeah, he's a wily old fox, as they say.
Yeah, very old and very well. Very everything that you just said. I'm not going to try and pronounce it because my Portuguese tongue will get into a knot. So yeah, then Max is trying to catch Lewis, and then 5 laps, 6 laps until the end of the race, he actually catches Hamilton. He kind of gets within a second and just kind of stays there for 1 lap, and then on the back straight, after losing a little bit of time on sector 1, he lost even a little bit more than I think he was going to lose, and then he the straight line speed for the Red Bull was just mega ridiculous. And they almost got into a little bit of a tough spot, because when Lewis was not expecting him, and then he just launched it on the inside, and Lewis jerked left because he saw him there, and then he went right again. He just caught himself almost doing something silly. But and then I don't know if you noticed, but on the next right-hander, Verstappen just drifted all the way through that corner just to keep Hamilton behind. It was crazy. His car control is crazy.
It was also nice to see some actual racing between them, because, to be fair, after last year, we've not seen really anything between them two particularly.
Yeah. What was not nice was what followed, because I don't really enjoy what they were doing after that. And just complaining about going off track. I get that you want to gain an edge every single thing, but two things. You can't keep at least broadcasting that is a little bit annoying. I don't know if you think that, but I found it a little bit annoying every 10 seconds having a Hamilton saying that he's going wide.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's the drama, it's the drive to survive aspect of F1 now. But I particularly like the new straight away get Max's engineer going. Just make sure you stay in, watch your track limits.
What I enjoyed even more was Hamilton saying, we got a message. Hamilton was saying that he's gone wide again, and then the message appeared in the top black and white flag for Hamilton, because he was going off track as well. So of course he was going. They were all doing that.
It's marginal gains.
Yeah.
That's all it is. And the difference is marginal gains that cost millions of dollars at the end between one position. So
yeah,
I can see why they do it. Is it the spirit of the sport? No. Should they be allowed to? I think no, because that's akin to in football going up and telling the ref what to do.
Yeah.
So I don't think they should be allowed to. But the problem is that F1 will broadcast it because it creates drama and it creates reaction, because we're talking about it.
Yeah, let's be honest, about being allowed to, it's what we're hearing is basically the comms between the driver and the engineer. They say a lot of stuff in the heat of the moment that they don't really mean sometimes, about talking really bad about other drivers and all that stuff. But I don't think it's really necessary to broadcast that every 10 seconds like they did in the end of the... And we had plenty of drama. We had 2 overtakes by Mr. Vettel on the outside of the sequence of long right-hand corners, where Verstappen got actually penalized for going off track on the inside in 2016, 2014, 2015, 16, because he was already there, 16, 17. Yeah. 2 very nice overtakes. One of them in the last lap between him and Magnussen. It was mega, big cojones stuff. So yeah, he was a man on a mission, definitely. And he seems to be enjoying his F1 very much right now. So yeah, go on.
No, it's just a difference. Obviously, no pressure. So if he DNFs the last 3 races, he can go, oh well, and go and sit on a boat or whatever he's going to do, or he can win the last 3 races and it'll still be, oh well, great, a little bit of bonus pocket money. So I think you can see he's just enjoying, which is nice to see. I think he's earned it over the years of what he's done.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so.
I just hope they give him a car in the last 3 races to let him enjoy it, and that they don't turn up at the next one with the piece of dog shit that sits at the back of the grid.
Yeah, I think I'm going to say that probably that's not going to happen, because Aston is one of those teams that started really, really badly, but it seems to kind of, with both drivers kind of having more and more competitive. They scored more in the last like 3 or 4 races than the rest of the season. So yeah,
is that because they spent too much money?
Let's not go there, man. Let's not go there. I can only take so much budget talk. So yeah. So now race results. So we actually had 3 different car top 3. We had Mr. Max Verstappen winning the race where they needed to win the championship. So Red Bull is right now world champion, so they got both titles in the same year. It was a 9-year gap. It was 2013 the last time they won the championship. Then Lewis Hamilton in second place, Charles Leclerc from in third, Sergio Perez, George Russell, Lando Norris. Then it would be Fernando Alonso, but he got a penalty, and we'll talk about that. Then Sebastian Vettel in 7th place behind Lando Norris. Then Kevin Magnussen, Yuki Tsunoda, and Esteban Ocon in P10, getting that last point because his teammate was penalized after the race. So what happened was that there were actually 2 cars, more than 2 cars. A third, George Russell, was a little bit damaged as well, but not as much as the others that had damage. And it was Sergio's car in the beginning that lost the front wing end plate, that it was damaged. And Alonso, when he was after the crash, he had damage on his left mirror, and it was vibrating like hell and dangling, and actually broke off when he passed Kevin Magnussen on the back straight, and was sitting in the middle of the track for the rest of the race. It was a little bit crazy to see the guys going side by side while trying not to hit the mirror. You could actually see it on the camera. And he got a 30-second. It was not 30 seconds. It came about to see then to be 30 seconds, but it was a stop and go penalty, and that equated to 30 seconds because he couldn't do it in the race. So yeah, we had that. So the exact wording of the penalty was for Alpine letting the car out with an unsafe state. So the mirror is dangling already, and they sent him out with that. And this was after a protest by Haas to Alonso and to Checo. Checo didn't get a penalty because he didn't get a meatball flag, and when he came to the pits the first time, the winglet was already off. So yeah, but then it's the news part. Both teams were actually summoned to so Thursday both teams are going to the stewards room. So we might not have the last of the story.
To be continued.
To be continued. I'm not sure. Can they retract a penalty? Not sure.
Of course they can. I'm sure they can.
So Esteban gets points, and then he will not get points, and then what?
Yeah, it'd be the current F1 chaos that we seem to have when it comes to stuff like this.
Yeah, I just think that they should make a decision and keep it. Not be.
No appeals.
No appeals. So I mean, you can appeal, but in this case, I don't think that would be much. I don't know. It just is starting to seem that they are giving penalties and taking decisions based on the internet's rage. They must have a rageometer in the stewards room, and they are just going with that. Maybe it isn't live, and they have to get one during the race.
It still comes down to the consistency. They just don't seem to. There's no consistency.
Yeah. Let's see. Sorry. You could talk.
No, you're right. That's it.
Yeah, I was just having to wait and see. I really don't like it being all that just we make a decision, and then if someone says anything, we'll review it and see what's public opinion and all that stuff. So it just seems that they are not doing it the right way, for me at least. The boss has to, like, the stewards have to have the last word, and their work shouldn't be second guessed, because they are actually handing out penalties. I just think that
shouldn't and isn't is two different things, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like almost your teacher giving you a something to do at home, and then your parents go and argue with the teacher and get that retracted, and then you have to do nothing just because your parents went in and talked with the teacher.
Oh, I think that's happening in this modern day and age. I think that does happen.
Yeah, but when it comes to this level of motorsports, I don't think that it should really happen. Yeah. No. So yeah, yes, that was my rendition of the Darth Sidious from Star Wars. No, I'm going to start doing Star Wars voices on the podcast. Maybe we'll get more viewers or listeners.
Or not.
Or not. Okay, not then.
or we'll lose some.
Or we'll lose them. So the other news that we had from the weekend, and we actually had some new drivers, because we had some development drivers on the cars, and the news is that if Mr. Logan Sargent has the enough license points, he will drive for Williams next year. I actually don't know that much about Logan Sargent, apart from him being American. That's the extent that I know of him.
It's about the same here.
So
American, fairly quick, GP2 or F2.
Yeah,
I'm assuming must have funds, which is why he's going to Williams, because there's a good crop of drivers out there who they could put in the car, but they've lost Lafitti's money, so they need someone else's money.
Yeah, I'm just disappointed that the Latifi seat is going to another. If it's true that it's just a paid thing, I just think it's sad. It was their opportunity to have two drivers that were not paid drivers, and I don't know.
They obviously need the money.
They obviously need the money, contrary to what they were saying for a long time.
We'll see. He might be a revelation, and they could prove us all wrong, but I think there's better options.
Yeah, it surely does seem so. But let's give him an opportunity. Let's hope that he's the American driver that we need right now, and we'll really need an American driver in F1 doing well. Let's hope he's better than Latifi. That's what I'm about to say. So yeah, that's my opinion on it. Not really an opinion, because I don't really know the guy, and I think that says a lot about it, because if we only hear US Capital talking about him and not his results saying anything to us. It kind of gives us a picture of what to expect, but I don't know. Let's see. Maybe he's the Fabio Quartararo of Formula One, that he didn't really won anything before getting to MotoGP, and now he is a
judging by his FP1 thing, he was okay, but he was still a couple of seconds off Albon. So
Latifi is too. So that means he's a god.
but then it's a difficult track in an F1 car, and all of the development drivers were. Schwartzman in the Ferrari was quite impressive because he had a bit of issues with the seat or something in the car, so he lost a bit of time and basically banged a lap in right at the very end. But still, all of them were like silly off the pace of the top drivers, but he was the best of them.
Yeah. So, yeah.
And then the funny one was Giovinazzi binned it on like lap 3 and damaged the gearbox, and we have to assume the only reason he was in that car was as a bit of a show off to end auditioning for a drive.
That was not a very good audition.
When they're moaning about Mick having shunts and causing crash damage to crash the car on the lap 3.
Yeah.
So I watched it and I was like, what are you doing? Just
don't crash a car while you're driving FP1. Your opportunity. You're better being slow.
Yeah, you get through and you do the program. You go through the program. You don't. They're not worried about you setting pole position times. They don't care.
Yeah, they are not. Yeah, when I saw that, I didn't see the practice, but when I saw the news, I was just, but he's gone in F1 unless he brings a lot of money, and I don't think that he brings a lot of money. I think it's just Ferrari.
He's just Ferrari, yeah.
Yeah.
He'll go there. He'll stay there. The reserve driver reserve driver sim.
Yeah. So
probably drive the hypercar.
Yeah, that's not actually a bad thing. We're very excited about those cars.
So that's where he ends up.
Yeah. So yeah, the last Haas seat is the only one for grabs. Kevin Magnussen has been very complimentary of Mick. He said he's trying to go very fast to be able to beat Mick. If that's just locker room talk or something like that, I don't know, but
Mick had a good qualifying, and
it's a bit in line in what we think about the second half of Mick's season, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's improved. He's going well, but there is a point of, would we still be saying the same thing if he didn't have Schumacher at the end of his? Are we giving him a little bit more leeway because he's a Schumacher?
Let's put it like this: I give leeway to Joe, and he doesn't have Schumacher in the last name, but he's already in under contract, and I think they're about similar situations. So, yeah, I do think that Mick should be given.
I think another year.
Yeah,
another year, and because he's done that in F3, F2. He's always been the second or third year is where he's clicked. He obviously takes that a little bit longer just to learn and understand. And he's not a Verstappen or a Lando who gets in it in their first season and just flying. He's obviously taken. So, and yeah, season 3 in GP2 or F2, and he was champion flying. But we'll see. F1's a tough business.
Yeah, very tough. Let's hope he gets the seat, because I actually don't see who could go there from the young crop of drivers that I mean, I could say I would like to see Drugovic there, but I don't think that he's going to be there. Schwartzman, I don't think he's. I don't know. He's fast enough.
He's probably the most likely one if Ferrari are going to place someone at Haas.
Yeah. So yeah,
he's the most likely. So, but unlikely, but likely, but unlikely.
But unlikely. Yeah. So let's see. Let's see if we get Hulkenberg in there. Now that we know that Daniel doesn't really want to sit. So it will be the Hulkmeister to be there.
No, I don't think he could do a full season. He only does one-offs.
And he still doesn't get a podium. Not even the one-offs.
Then he's got the excuse ready because he's only been in the car in the morning.
Yeah, so yeah, that was it from us, I think. I don't know if you have anything else to talk about, but we talked about the race, some new stuff.
No, I think we covered it all. I think the main ones, obviously, with Dietrich and the Red Bull news, was probably not overshadowed, just a bit poignant.
Yeah.
Good race.
Yeah.
You know, Kota seems to bring him out and...
Yeah, and budget talk has been postponed between the FIA and Red Bull because of his death. So, and I really don't like the comments online just saying that it's them giving them a pass on because the death of someone. So we shouldn't joke about that. So it's justifiable.
It's the right thing. It's the right thing to do, and start talking about it next week. It's fine. Yeah. You know, people need time to grieve.
Yeah, always. The championships are all done, so there's basically nothing to gain on pressing a issue that they can do that next week. So yeah, the FIA is going to do something because Toto won't let them do nothing.
Exactly. Yeah, something will happen.
Yeah, something will happen.
We just wait for it, and then we can talk about it then a bit more.
Yep. So yeah, that was it from us from the US GP. Just on a parting note, we don't need Shaquille O'Neal and that monstrous car every American race. Please, next year, don't bring it out 3 times. Those seats look very disgusting.
Yeah, but they love Shaq. It's America. Gotta be bigger. Gotta be better.
Yeah, but we get the same memes every year when he comes around with the small trophy in his hands and big trophy in everyone else's hands. It's the same joke all over again. But I do like me a bit of check. That could actually be the name of today's episode. The Cadillac, because it was a Cadillac. Yeah.
A bit late now.
So yeah,
that's the episode.
Yeah, it was Flying Mirrors was the name of the episode. So yeah, we had that. So thank you very much for watching, listening. If you're listening,
whoa. Are we not doing who we think is going to win next week?
Yeah, Sergio.
Yeah.
Let's go. Hopeful.
Oh, no chance.
I think
I want to say Max, but I think I might. I'm going to say Hamilton. Yeah. Just to make it look like that.
Hamilton. Mexico.
No, it was Charles. No, Charles.
I was thinking that you gone mad or something like that. Mercedes always is very bad at Mexico.
No, I like messing around with it. no, I think Charles due one.
Yeah,
or a Ferrari. A Ferrari.
Yeah.
Sainz is going to come back with.
I'm going Sergio just because I really want a Mexican to win at Mexico. He's going to have another. Actually, big rumor. You know what's the latest big rumor? That Daniel is going to have is going to be a test driver at Red Bull.
Yeah, they reckon he's going to be a reserve driver somewhere, and it's suspected to be Red Bull because basically Mercedes and Red Bull are the only people who don't have an allotted reserve.
That would just be funny.
Yeah, it's just.
If he gets it, I'm going to laugh for an entire week. We're going to have an episode of me just laughing.
It's such. I don't know what he's thinking about that. That's.
Just go and turn left in an IndyCar.
Hey, NASCAR. Just
NASCAR.
Just go to America.
Just go to America and bring back the number 3. I actually don't know if he could actually do that.
No, not in.
I think it's retired.
Not in NASCAR.
Not in NASCAR. Because if you guys don't know, it's actually Dale Earnhardt's senior, not junior, senior's number. And he was a hero of Daniel. That's why he uses the number 3. So, yeah. Let's see. The Red Bull normally is good there, and I don't know. With the thin air, I do think that they are going to struggle a little bit probably on downforce because they have less downforce than the other guys, or they seem to have a little bit less than Ferrari. So Ferrari may actually be good on tires, so you might be kind of right. So, but I don't know. Let's see. I'm going Sergio because I want Sergio to win. Next week, I want Sergio.
It'd be nice for him to win.
No, you're a Sergio hater. You can't go back. You're a Sergio hater.
I'm not going back. I'm not going back.
So yeah, Sergio for me and Ferrari driver for you. Okay. Yeah. Let's see who actually wins, and it will probably be a good race. Vettel. That would be mega. That would be mega. Or Stroll. Stroll would be better, even funnier if it was Stroll. So yeah. We kind of get a few crazy races there because that last corner seems to be very tricky.
Yeah.
I mean, the stadium section, it looks good on camera, but for racing is actually garbage because it slows down the car too much, and actually ruins the front straight that it's very big, but it's so hard to follow. Let's say with these new cars, but it's so hard to follow on that last corner out of the corner.
They should be able to follow a lot better now with the ground effects. So
yeah, let's see if it's better, actually. Yeah, so it might be an interesting race, but it's not really eventful. We had some very nice scraps between Red Bulls and Ferraris in the past, so let's hope we get there. We get that this time as well. So, yeah. Thank you for watching or listening. Follow us at Bump Draft Pray, the podcast you can find on any social media. Our email is bdappodcast@gmail.com. I've been your host, Pedro Barbosa. My handle on Twitter is Pedro Barbosa SCR. And Earl Goddard is with me, and his handle is Earl Goddard at Twitter. Please tweet him and not me, because I actually almost never go there on Twitter. I said this last week, but I have to put my Facebook and not my Twitter. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, listening. Please like and subscribe, and give us 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts and all that stuff. So thank you for following us and watching us. And see you next week. See ya.
Cheers, guys. Bye.
Draft and Pray is an independent podcast, and the music was by Letting Punks Know.